Hello, my name is Professor John Benjamin. This is West Virginia Wesleyan College, and this class is web design. And today we'll be going over image optimization. So let's talk about the four types of images that we typically use for the web. The most common is JPEG, which stands for the Joint Photographic Experts Group, which created this special compression for photographs. This is a lossy compression. That means that each time it's saved, it loses information. It gets more and more blurry, if you will. It uses a complex array of compression, including loss of color depth and consolidating pixels. And what happens in a JPEG is it'll take, let's say in a blue sky, if there's an area of pixels that are all similar, it'll block them out into one big pixel, if you will. But what this happens to this, if things get too compressed, is what some of us call the crunchies. So along the edges of something like along this beach here, in the sky, we'll start to see these little crunchy pixels. And that comes from the consolidated pixel compression. So what do we use JPEGs for? Typically photographs, paintings, 3D images, things like that. The next most common is the PNG, or portable network graphic. Now the benefit of PNGs, and they're definitely rising in popularity for the web, is that they're lossless. So what you see is what you get. They're always going to keep their pixel integrity, if you will. They also have alpha transparency, so you can have pixels and transparent pixels. So you can put a PNG, let's say of a logo, and then you can still see the background of your website. So that's very, very helpful. Graphic interchange format, GIFs or GIFs, depending on how you like to pronounce it. Primarily, GIFs are only used for animations. They used to be like the only web graphic when the internet first came out. But now we primarily use them for animations. And then lastly is the SVG, or scalable vector graphic. So these are images that are made totally out of lines. And so they're usually reserved for very simple illustrations. This here could be an SVG, but typically logos are SVGs. And the nice thing about them is if there aren't that many lines, if it's a very simple graphic, the SVG will be smaller in size, but it'll be infinitely scalable. So it'll never look pixelated. And so they're really good for logos. All right, so let's go ahead and make an SVG. We do that in Illustrator. So go ahead and open up Adobe Illustrator. All right, you're going to create a new file. And we're going to title this, I'm going to call it Restaurant Logo. And we're going to make the width 600 pixels, height 100 pixels. You can change your units there and then hit create. All right, here we are in Illustrator. We have a canvas that's 600 by 100 pixels. And we're going to type some text in here. So to do that, you're going to come over here and look for your text or type tool. It's right there. You can just click on it. And then you simply need to come into the canvas here and click once. And most Adobe products are set up to give you lorem ipsum. But if there's no text there, then just start typing. So I'm going to go ahead and type the name of my restaurant, which will be John's Veggie Burgers. All right. Now let's say you want to change the size of this. There's a couple of ways to do that. I'm going to show you probably the easier way. You come up here to your selection tool, and you click on that black tool there. And then you're no longer typing. You're manipulating a graphic. And so here we have these corners. Now if I just drag it out, I'll make it bigger, but unfortunately you can squash and stretch it, so you don't want to do that. That ruins the integrity of the type. So you grab the corner like so, hold the shift key down, then click and drag, and that way it maintains its proportions. So we have John's Veggie Burgers. I don't like that typeface, so let's go ahead and change it. You just simply select that graphic or that text box with your selection tool, and then you can come down here to the character palette, which is part of the properties palette. So if you don't have that open, you just go to Window, and Properties. And then Properties changes based on whatever you have selected. So down here, I want to change this to something different. Okay, that looks a little more sort of diner veggie burger-ish. All right. All right, and that's done right there. And again, you can, whoops, there, that's better. And you can change the specific size right here as well, whether it's left or right, things of that nature. Let's go ahead and change the color. If you don't have your color palette open, we can go to Window and Color or Swatches. But I'm going to choose Color. And I'm going to go ahead and make it a sort of a veggie green. All right. And then into this word mark, let's add like a logo, like some sort of image. And let's just do something really basic. Let's go ahead and create a circle or an ellipse. So you can come over here to your ellipse tool, and if you don't see the circle or the ellipse, just click and drag and hold down, and you'll see there's several options here. So you might have the rectangle tool. If you click and hold, you'll get the ellipse tool. So now to make an ellipse, you just drag out. But I want to make a perfect circle, so I'm going to go ahead and drag out a perfect circle like this. And I want this to be like a burger, so I'm going to make it a bun color. All right. Something like that. All right, so I've got a bun color there, and you can just leave yours as a circle. But I'm going to go ahead and duplicate mine. So you can copy and paste if you want to do this, or even better, just simply option dragging. All right, so I've got 3 circles here, and I'm just going to select the center one and make it more of a burger color. There we go. And that's my little veggie burger logo icon. All right, so there you have your first logo, if you will, that we've created in Illustrator. Just a couple of quick things too. If you want to manipulate any shapes, you can just use the direct selection tool here, and you can click on the anchor points you can see, and then you can make changes like that. Now you can also, if you want to get a little advanced, use your pen tool here and then make different shapes like so. And then you can manipulate those again by going to your white selection tool or direct selection tool and manipulating those anchor points. And so this is what I meant by images that are created from lines. All right, so just a little quick Illustrator training there. So let's save this. Now here's an important part of saving this. You're not going to save this to your images folder or your IMG folder on your website. You're going to need a separate folder for files that you're going to use on your website to build things, but they're not going to actually be on your website. So this is a native file or a .ai Adobe Illustrator file. So it can't be used on your website until we export it, but you need to save it somewhere in case you want to go back and make changes. All right, so let's go ahead and file save this. And you're going to want to create a folder in your documents folder that has maybe other things for your website. So I've got this here, John Benjamin's website. I probably should give it a better name like John Benjamin's website items, but I'm just going to go ahead and use that. And I'm going to save this restaurantlogo.ai to this folder. You can just hit OK. And again, that's a native file. So it's a file, it's an Illustrator file. And we keep those in case we want to go back and make changes. It's like the original file. So once you've done that, though, we need to create an SVG file, a scalable vector graphic. So .ai file won't work on your website. The browser won't recognize it. All right, so let's go ahead and do that. So we're going to say file. Oh, one step, pardon me. So before we make this into a scalable vector graphic, we need to outline the type. Right now, this type is in PostScript, so there's a lot of information that's carried through it that won't necessarily translate into a scalable vector graphic. It'll be fine for a PDF or lots of other files, but scalable vector graphics really don't work that great in PostScript typography. So what we need to do is we're going to select it, and then we're going to say type and create outlines. And so what we're doing is we're just turning it into basic vector shapes, and so the SVG it'll be read better. Okay, so once we've done that step, we can go ahead and export. File and export as. and it should default to a PNG, but we want to change that to SVG. And we can put that in that same folder where you're storing things. That's a fine place to put it. Then just hit OK. All right, so the next thing we're going to do is we're going to go to Dreamweaver, and you're going to open up your restaurant file from your assignment. And what we're going to do is we're going to put your vector graphic, your scalable vector graphic, up here in the navbar. All right, so how do we do that? Let's go find the navbar right here. If I double click in there, there's the text. I'm going to delete that and simply say insert image. And here I have restaurant logo.svg. And you can see it won't let me select the restaurant logo.ai because, again, a browser wouldn't recognize that tag. And once again, it's going to say this is outside of the root folder, so it has to go in the root folder. And so I'm going to go ahead. I don't have on this level, in my labs folder, I have an IMG folder, but on this level, where we've created our restaurant and our T5 pages, we need to create a new images folder. So they're all on the same level. So I'm going to say new folder, IMG for images, and there we have it. I'm going to go ahead and put that in there. I put my logo in here, and it's not showing up in the navbar. That's because it's really too big for this navbar. It's 600 by 100 pixels. So we need to make it a little smaller, so we're going to do that in our CSS Designer. So we have here the navbar brand, which we've already created a selector for. So you can come here, and remember it's that really long one. So if you need to see it, you can double click on it, and it's really long, and then at the end is navbar brand. That's how we know that's the one. Okay, so with navbar brand selected, we're going to go ahead and change the width. So it's like 600 pixels, so I'm going to change it to like 200. And there you can see, now I can see it. And that's a pretty good size for a logo in a navbar. You want it to be. All right, so this is looking like a pretty good website. Now it's professional. It's got a nice, cool looking vector logo. Okay, so now we're going to, that's scalable vector graphics. Let's go create some JPEGs and some PNGs. So we're going to do this in Photoshop. So go ahead and open up Photoshop. And we're going to need a couple of photos to work from. So if you go into Canvas in this tutorial and you go down to raster, I've got a frog image here that you can download, and then later you're going to require this farm image too. And so when you click on the frog image, it's just going to come up here in your browser, and you're going to need to hit this little download button to get it onto your computer. So go ahead and just do that. All right, so here's the frog image. To navigate around in Photoshop, you can hit Command or Alt plus minus, and you can zoom in and zoom out. And if I zoom in, you can see it's a pretty crisp image, not too high res, but pretty high res. All right. A little too big for the web. We'll need to make it smaller. Okay, so first thing we're going to want to do is crop it. So typically you know the dimensions of the images that you're going to use for a particular web page. So let's say we know the dimensions are 600 by 300 pixels. So we need to make this the right dimensions. So we go to our crop tool right here in Photoshop. If you don't see it, you can click down here. Let's say Edit Toolbar, and you can find it there. But hopefully your crop tool is there. And then what we want to do is specify the ratio, or the height, the width and height and resolution. So you want to change this to W and H in resolution. And then we're going to change it to 600 px by 300 px. That's 72. All right, great. And then automatically, you see what it does is now these new dimensions are set in here, and they're different from the dimensions that the photo came from. Now you can grab the corners, and you can decide on how you want to arrange this image. You can move it up or down, and I think if you did something like that, that's pretty good, because think about typically we might want to put a little text over here, so you might want to find or crop the frog in such a way where there's room for text. Okay, but once you have it cropped to the desired height and width, just go ahead and hit return. And then there it is. So now if I zoom in, you can see it's a lot more pixelated than it was. I've really reduced the pixel ratio, including the dimensions. All right, so now that we've got it cropped, we know the pixel dimensions that we want. Now we're going to optimize it. So we're going to add some compression to help make the actual file size, not the dimensions, but the size of it, be a lot smaller. Okay, so to do that, we're going to go to File and Export As. And here we are on the Export As dialog box. And so we can zoom in down here, take a look at the resolution. Looks pretty good, although it's not great. It's not like it came right off of a digital camera. All right, the first thing we're going to take a look at is the different file formats. Okay, so here we have it set as a JPEG. So I'm going to go ahead and change this to a PNG and see what happens. Not too much. PNGs nowadays are very similar to JPEGs. All right, let's zoom in a little more and see if we can see any difference. So let's go from PNG back to JPEG. Yeah, really hardly any noticeable difference. But the one place that it is very different is the file size. So right here as a PNG, it's 308.8 kilobytes. If I change it to a JPEG, 130.7, so less than half. So JPEG for this type of photo is going to be the optimal photo of choice. It's much smaller. You want to try to keep your images, anywhere under 200, around 100 is really good. And that's why are we doing this? Why are we optimizing? So if you're on, let's say, a cell phone or a computer that has a really weak internet, you're not going to wait a long time for that data to unload. So basically, as it has to load up all the data from those pixels. So if it's really small, it'll pop up instantaneously. And that's really what's important. So when we use the word optimize, what we're saying is we want the file size to be as small as possible without any noticeable decrease in resolution. So we will be decreasing the resolution. The key word there is noticeable by the viewer. All right, so we've got a JPEG here, and it's looking pretty good. Now, what if we were to make it a GIF? So if I choose GIF, you can see that the GIF has a very different type of file compression. It only uses solid pixels, and it doesn't work very well in photographic or very illustrative photos. So you can just take a look there, and so GIF is definitely not what we want. So JPEG's the one we want. It's the smallest file size with the least amount of change to the photograph. Okay, so the last thing that we need to do here in Export As is, do we need any more sizes? So for instance, using media queries, we can have a really large one for a desktop banner, which would be full resolution. That would probably be something a little more like 1200 pixels. But let's just say we have a 600 pixel one for the home page on a screen. And then we want to have smaller ones for smaller devices like the phone. And again, just like a phone, the cell coverage might not be that good. And so therefore there could be a delayed in loading times depending on how good your reception is. So we want to always create several types of sizes, and so that's what this little area here is. So if I hit this plus button, automatically what Photoshop is going to give me is a half size, and so this is half the resolution and then half the pixels. So that'll probably be good for a phone. And I can click it one more time, and this is 3/4 size, and I can click here and I can even do like 1/4, and so this could be like for a thumbnail. And then if we go ahead then and hit export, you're going to want to put these. You could put these directly in your IMG folder, but I'm going to put them in my website storage folder. And you can see what Photoshop has done. So here I've got the full resolution frog image, right, 134K, and now I've got a half size, half resolution 41K. And you can quickly see that the resolution has gone down. But if we look here, it's still 600 by 300. So a half size is it's half the dimensions at half of the resolution. And then a quarter size is then again a quarter of that. And that's really dramatically dropped. So that might be good for just a really small thumbnail, like this, where at that size, no one's noticing the pixelation. But any bigger, it gets noticeable. And so that's what we have. So when we're using or exporting for the web, we need to have multiple file sizes for media queries and multiple devices. Okay, so let's go ahead and try this exercise with a different image and with media queries. All right, so go ahead and go back to Canvas and now download the farm image and then open that up in Photoshop. All right, once again, we're going to crop it. The cropping dimensions should still be up there. Just hit return. And then we're going to File and Export. All right, for here, we're going to keep it a little simple this time. We're just going to add one additional size, so just a half size. All right, then let's go ahead and hit Export. Again, probably put it in the same place that you're storing your other files. All right, then we're going to hop over to Dreamweaver. All right, so I'm going to put that farm picture right in this box here. You can really put it in any one of your containers. So I'm just going to double click in here so that I find that text. I'll probably put it right after this paragraph sign right there, and I'm just going to go ahead and, pardon me, in Canvas, I have the code all ready for you. Let's go back to Canvas. And here we have, or what I have already set up for you, is a media query image, some media query image code. So let's go ahead and copy that, come back to Dreamweaver, and we're just going to paste that right. I'm going to paste it right below here. You can really put yours almost anywhere. Okay, missed step. So I have this code for you right here, but you need to put your farm image in your images folder. And so to do that, I'm going to simply go here. I've got my two farm images right here and here, and then I need to go over to my documents folder, and here is my website folder with my IMG folder and with my restaurant logo. So now what I need to do is go ahead and take these two images and move them to this IMG folder. Okay, so now that they're in there, they're in the right location, you can simply go ahead and paste this code from Canvas into Dreamweaver, and there's your image. And now what we can see happen here is full resolution, because we have it set here to a media query of 576, and here's full res, and then below 576 we'll go half res. And so here I can go ahead and move this down, and then once we get past 576, I've got the smaller version there. And then I can move up, and it'll pop back up to the full res version. And so that's how we can have the same image in the same place, but have it be a different resolution. And so that source code is just basically just source set, media, and then the media query is right there. And now there's another way to do this. We can just set it up in the media queries using a class selector and properties. All right, so let's go ahead and do that. So what I'm going to do is I have this header here, this header container. I think you should have one for your restaurant. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to the CSS Designer, footer there, here's my container fluid header. I select that, and then I'm going to add a background image. Right, and I'm going to go ahead and I'm just going to simply use the farm. So here's the full-sized farm. I'm going to go ahead and hit open. And there you can see that image is in the background of this container. But if we go back over to Canvas for a moment, I've given you some code here that has some other parameters. So you can go here, just go ahead and copy that, come back over to Dreamweaver, and then what you're going to do is you're going to hop over to your CSS. You're going to click right here, and then you're going to navigate to the container fluid header. Now right now it's just got a background color and a background image. So what you can do though is you can simply, I'm just going to go put some space there and hit paste. Because what I really don't, I already have my container fluid header tag there. What I really just need is all these other parameters. So I'm just going to go ahead and copy those. And then I'm just going to paste those right in here. And I can just get rid of that. And then I can clean up my code. All right. And so what I've done is I've said image no repeat. I made the height 200 pixels in that frame and several other parameters. So that looks pretty good. Okay, but what I want to have happen is from last time we set our media queries to be anything below 576 to have these parameters. So if I want to do that, I can just simply change the image when it gets below here. So I can simply copy this container fluid header, and I can come down here and paste that in here. And now I can change farm.jpg to my other file name, which is farm at 0.5x JPEG. So I can come down here and just type that in or just paste it in. Like so. And so now what will happen, if I hit save, file save all, probably won't really notice the change, but if I come here to 576, what's going to happen, or what's happened is it's now loading the half-size file. It's a little hard to tell, but the resolution did shift there. And so that way, if I try to load this web page on my phone right here, only the half-page image will load, and that'll save time on your phone. All right, so go ahead and save that and put that up onto the server, and then add to your index the name of this tutorial. And good luck on your assignment.